Presenting the only podcast dedicated to the AHL's Colorado Eagles. This is the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. Here are your hosts, Hawkley and Scott MacDonald.
Well, there's our cue. Good evening. Welcome to episode 2 of the Tape to Tape podcast. As you heard in the very upbeat, rocky, rock and rolly intro, my name is Hawkley. That's Scott MacDonald. Welcome to the show. Episode number 2. Like Scott was saying, we are hitting our stride.
Ready to rock. Let's go.
Ready to rock. Let's do this. Yeah. So the Tape to Tape podcast, we're here to talk about the Colorado Eagles, obviously not in play currently. This episode's going to air on August 7th. We got a couple of Colorado Avalanche games to talk about and some Eagles alumni that are making a very positive impact for sure on that Avalanche squad. They are currently 2 of 3 games down in the round robin tournament up there in Edmonton. And so, boy, what a showing they have that they have had so far. But we'll get to that. Hang tight. That was a little teaser. But I did want to touch base, Scott, on what we talked about last week real quick. I wanted to talk about the Eagles that made the roster, made the Phase 4 final playoff roster. And it was pretty much everybody that we spoke about last episode, which was a couple weeks ago now. And, you know, I'm looking at the list here, and it, like I said, it pretty much includes everybody. You've got Kevin Connaughton, TJ Tynan, Logan O'Connor, Connor Timmins, Shane Bowers, Sheldon Dries, Anton Lindholm, and Michael Hutchinson, because he never really suited up for the Eagles, but he was definitely more of an AHL goaltender in 2019-20 for the Toronto Marlies. So, the only 2 that were cut from the Phase 3 training camp roster were Jacob Mcdonald and Adam Werner. And, I'm a little surprised by Jacob Mcdonald. There's probably maybe some underlying reasons there. The Avs are stacked at defensemen. So, that
definitely is a contributing factor for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course with Werner, being in Sweden, and the fact that you've got a Michael Hutchinson, available to you to back up, Grubauer and Francois if need be, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, a goaltender gets COVID-19. But all of my words aside, to introduce this second episode of ours, what do you think? I've kind of weighed in a little bit on McDonald and Werner myself, but yeah, what are your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah. No, I'm a huge McDonald fan. I think a lot of people know that. I'm also, like you said, very, very shocked that he didn't make the team. I think, the coaches were praising his versatility. He can play a little defense, play a little forward like he did in Loveland this past year. And
right.
I think he's a great player, an even better guy. And yeah, that was definitely a shock for me. And also a shock, I guess, that they cut Werner. I'm kind of surprised. I think most teams were going to take 4 goalies. So I was a little bit shocked to see Werner. The Avs only carry 3 goalies into Edmonton with them, and Werner to take that cut. But I guess it is what it is. They're very confident in the health of their goalies, knock on wood. Hopefully everything stays that way. But yeah, I like the guys they took. Again, just a little bit disappointed in the McDonald. I think he definitely deserved a shot. Maybe deserved a shot over Lindholm if I was going to cut one of those guys. But again, it is what it is, and we're rolling with it.
Yeah, and it's not nearly as public as say the NFL, in the fact that you've got players that are sitting out because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Right. So who's to say that Werner felt a little more comfortable to stay in Sweden, a country that has and who's to say that maybe Jacob McDonald decided to go home to Portland, Oregon and say, maybe I'll just sit this one out. I mean, it's tough to say. That could have been motivation as well. But again, you look at the Avs defensive, just all the defensemen that are on there and all the defensemen that they pulled from the Eagles already. I mean, like you said, maybe you could substitute one of those in there. But it's kind of backup at this point. I mean, you've got such a loaded roster. I mean, one of my questions on my outline here, Scott, is, who looked good, who didn't look so good, who's been riding the bench? Well, pretty much all the guys that were plucked from the Eagles have been riding the bench. I mean, you've probably got to see a lot more of the game time than I have. Again, schedule being conducive to that and all that. But have you noticed any of the 2019-20 Eagles squad members getting any ice time in the 2 round robin games that have been played so far?
I don't think they did. I know like Timmons, he was the only one that in the exhibition game against Minnesota like a week or two ago now at this point, I think he was the only one that got any sort of time. I think everyone else is kind of just riding the pine right now, and they're kind of along for the ride. It's something Jared Bednar talked about quite a bit when they announced the Phase 4 roster, the final roster that'll be making it to Edmonton. They kind of talked about how it was such a great opportunity for them to take some of these younger guys, which is why I was maybe a little surprised that Shane Bowers kind of made the cut. I thought they could have maybe substituted a different player in there for him. But again, it's kind of just he mentioned it's free training camp time, essentially. It's this is a great opportunity to get some of these young kids to practice with us for upwards of 2 months, at an NHL level with their future teammates in the Avalanche. So yeah, it is what it is. That's what they rolled with. And I mean, I'm not disappointed in it. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think every NHL squad definitely gets an opportunity to bring up that AHL talent. I know for the Carolina Hurricanes, who knows how long the Carolina-Charlotte affiliation will last after this season, but I mean, right. Morgan Geekie, making an impact over there for Carolina for sure. But I think a lot of NHL clubs have the opportunity to kind of, like you said, to get this young talent, to get this these AHL guys that wouldn't normally have a chance to make a playoff roster as a black ace, and to eventually increase their opportunities and their chances to be able to crack the NHL squad. And that kind of segues pretty well into the next topic I wanted to cover. And the Avs, like I mentioned, they've played 2 round robin games so far. One of them against the St. Louis Blues. If you're paying attention to the playoffs, of course the 0.1 second goal by Nazem Kadri. Wow. Oh my goodness! I mean, you can't get more excited. Can't get more exciting than that. Not a last second, but a last millisecond goal by Kadri. But yeah, 2-1 victory for the Avalanche. You talk about the 11th hour. How about the 11th hour, 59th minute, and 59 seconds? And of course, I wanted to delay the recording of the podcast. Scott originally had asked if Tuesday was okay, but I'm like, I want the Avs to play another game so we could cover that as well. And boy, howdy,
certainly
did that pay off. Yes,
that worked out very well for us.
Yes, it did. Man, I tell you, you want to talk about an Eagles alumni, Pavel Francouz. Boy, lights out. He faced a number of quality chances against the Stars, 27 total saves, I believe, in the 4-0 shutout that he got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, insane performance. And that's just kind of something if you've been paying attention in Loveland when he played there a couple of years ago, it's this is just ice in his veins. That's what he does night in and night out. He could carry a team on his back, and he could face some of the best shots in the league, and it's like nothing to him. It's wild. He's just I've never seen such a calm goalie, I guess. I think he is just so strong in net and just so calm and poised and collected, and love the guy. Great guy.
Yeah, and obviously social media was like, hey, maybe Frankie can usurp Grubauer, and it's like your boss Adrian Dater's like, pump the brakes. Listen, it's not a goalie controversy for Bednar.
No, I don't think so. It's just I'm kind of in the same boat. I would love. I tell people all the time I'm Team Frankie. I love the guy, but you kind of got to give it to the veteran. He's been at the team longer. It's always gonna be Grubauer's net until he loses. His job to lose, essentially. And it's a good problem to have if you're Jared Bednar. You have essentially 2 starting goalies that you could put in the game at any point, and they could pull out a win for you. So good problem to have, but yeah, I don't really think there's a goalie controversy. If you ask Bednar, there's really not a goalie controversy. It's going to be Grubauer's net, and it's until he loses it. So
right.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of the Pittsburgh Penguins a few years ago. Just the
Mhm.
fact that a wealth, and not even a few years ago, present day too, because you have a wealth of riches in net. You had Marc-Andre Fleury for years, winning Stanley Cups with that crew, and then Matt Murray, succeeds him after he gets picked up by Vegas in the expansion draft, and now Tristan Jarry. It's like
Right.
it just it kind of reminds me of that. It's like the Avs, dare I say, they're starting to have a wealth of riches in net.
Yeah, which is something that's very, very hard for a lot of NHL teams to do. And yeah, whatever Pittsburgh's doing, like whoever their scouting team is on the goalie side of things, like wow, they're gonna have a lot of people calling. They got a great resume. But yeah, I mean, it finally, like obviously Francouz he was kind of just like an out there find. Like props to Joe Sakic and his scouting team grabbing him from the KHL, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, we're finally starting to see that you have a reliable 1 and 2 goalie, and then you got Werner coming down the pipeline, and you got Miska, and they've been doing really, really well. And then a Noonan, of course, like he's gonna be the starting goalie one day. Like it's
right.
It's good. We're finally starting to see them develop that wealth of riches, like you said. It's coming
Right.
soon.
Yeah. It's when, gosh, the Avalanche had that standout season. I want to say it was 2012-13, where they ended up winning the division.
Yeah.
St. Louis fell apart down the stretch, and it was just it was Semyon Varlamov. He was kind of the goalie, and people were like, all right, and he had that one good season, and then he just kind of tapered off after that, and there wasn't really an heir apparent, as it were. And so you pick up another backup from the Washington Capitals and Grubauer. Kind of a funny coincidence there, and now you've got Francouz, and just a wealth of goaltending riches behind him. So anyway, it's great. It is great to have playoff hockey back. It is great to, if you can, see the Avalanche play if you're not blacked out.
Yeah, that's a discussion for a different day. I'm so not talking about that. Oh God.
Not the point. Not the
Right,
point here for sure. But hey, oddly enough, I have a bit of a jinx when it comes to my podcast, whether it's the In the Corners podcast with Sean O'Brien or this one. Starting off after episode 1, news broke the very next day. The Eagles signed 2 more defensemen. So you've got, Matthew Abt and you've got Ian Scheid. And so a couple more defensemen coming into the 2020-21 Eagles, Eagles roster picture. And it's if you count Jacob Mcdonald, who signed an extension with the Avalanche on an NHL contract, you've got 6 defensemen so far that have committed. And again, just a few days ago, you've also got Kevin Davis. I always confuse the first names with Kevin Davis and Peter Tischke. Yeah. I've done that for guys before, and it's embarrassing. Or positions, that's always fun. But So let's talk a little bit about that. You've got let's talk about some of the returning guys first. Let's start there. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I wanted to defer to you a little bit, Scott, and say, hey, you've got Davis, you've got Tischke, and you've got McDonald. So you've got these 3 returning guys to the blue line. I only saw 3 games last year, so I didn't get to get a full feel of these guys' games. Obviously, like we spoke about Jacob McDonald, he's a versatile guy, played forward for part of the season, just, superb player and everything. Very surprised he didn't make the playoff roster, but I'll yield the floor to you because I want to hear what you have to say about the 2 most recent signing announcements by the Colorado Eagles.
Yeah, again, I get the McDonald goes without saying. I mean, that was a smart decision by Sakic and his team. I think, you got a lot of experience in him. You got a lot of versatility in him. That's great. I'd love to see him back in there. And then, you got Kevin Davis and Peter Tischke signing a few days ago, which is awesome. I guess they're kind of they're going to be more depth kind of guys. We're probably going to see them like they did last year, bounce between the AHL and ECHL with the Utah Grizzlies. But I like them. I think they're great. They've been in the system for a couple of years now. That's awesome. And again, just like kind of developing that homegrown talent a little bit and giving him some more time to mature. And I think, who knows? You got a lot of maybe Timmins won't return next year. You might get some time with the Avalanche. So there might be some open positions on the Eagles back end. And, some of those guys like Tishke and Davis might be able to claim a spot. We'll see.
Yeah, there's always that opportunity. And like we spoke about last episode, if the Avalanche struggle with injuries next season, whenever that may start,
Right.
but if the Avalanche do struggle with injuries like they did this past season, or I guess this current season, it's weird to say in August.
Ago, yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, it does feel like a lifetime ago for sure. But yeah, it's there's definitely an opportunity, and something that, again, we touched on last time, the depth of this organization all the way down to the ECHL is super impressive. I would have really liked to see how far both the Grizzlies and the Eagles could have made it in the postseason if they would have gotten out of their respective Pacific and Mountain divisions to make a push to the Western Conference Finals. It would have been really neat to see. But now we get to see playoff hockey, any playoff hockey.
Exactly. So, it's kind of, I guess, a fair trade-off. Maybe unfair for some people, but that's life. C'est la vie, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's what we're dealing with right now, and you can't avoid it. But no, count your blessings for sure. We definitely have hockey to watch. So I did want to ask you, Scott, before I kind of critiqued a little bit the other three guys we talked about. I wanted to divvy it up evenly. And
sure.
Have you seen any film or any clips of Matt Apt or Keaton Middleton or even Ian Scheid coming, this on the back of the signings? Go ahead.
Yeah. I will say, I did. It's just kind of like a standard procedure I do. Just I'll do a quick YouTube search of these names and just some of these guys. I watch some highlight reels, some game footage, and yeah, I've seen them. I think they're, for the most part, they're kind of stay-at-home defensemen, the defensemen that they have signed so far. And then I like some of the forwards they've signed as well. They're speedy, smaller guys, got a lot of energy. And I think, that's big. It kind of fits with the mold of the Avalanche. They're trying to go for a younger, fast-paced team. They're not necessarily going for size and strength anymore. And I think these signings that the Eagles have done recently kind of fit that mold, the team. And you kind of want to keep that same, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, but that same kind of team definition, I guess. Identity maybe is probably the word for it. Up and down the lineup, all the way from Utah to Denver with the Avalanche. I think they're doing a good job of doing that so far with these signings.
Yeah, and I really think reaching outside of the organization for already not quite veteran AHL defensemen, but both Apt and Middleton have played 2 seasons. This will be season number 3 in the AHL for those two. And both of them are kind of big guys. Apt 6'4", Middleton is 6'5". I did get a chance to talk with a guy who covers the Barracuda down there. Kevin Lacey and I have been exchanging some conversation, just shooting the breeze, talking hockey, talking puck. And he says, actually Keaton Middleton's a guy that I've been really paying close attention to. And so he gave me a laundry list of just what he's noticed, both pros and cons from Middleton. And so I kind of wanted to share that, obviously a bridge version because, we're kind of limited for time here.
Sure. That's fair.
Yeah. But he said that he's charismatic. And I think that's an important, an important thing to have is some character guys that do have that charisma. He's everything you don't expect. And sometimes that can be to a fault, which let me unpack that a little bit. He's 6'5", like I mentioned. But Kevin said that he skates super well, he's very cerebral and he picks his spots well to jump in the rush. But, he skates really well for a guy that you wouldn't think, being 6'5", you think of kind of more of a lumbering defenseman and everything. But yeah, he's a very good skater. And that mobility, just allows for some quick and effective, retreat from the offensive zone. He doesn't overstay his time there. And so those are some of the positives that, Kevin pointed out. And some of the things that detracts from his game is sometimes, the big guys, the 6'5", the 6'6". I'm reminded of Keegan Kanzik for the Idaho Steelheads when I covered them for a couple of years. I mean, just big, looming physical presence. Middleton doesn't really bring a whole lot of physicality to his game. What he makes up for in mobility, he kind of lacks in that physicality. And so you kind of have that. And his stamina over the season was kind of a concern for Kevin as well. Just the fact that he plays very well defensively up until about January, and then he kind of tapers off and he's not as consistent. Well, with a shortened season, maybe that'll play to his benefit if that stamina is a problem, or if he's increased his stamina over the time that he's been in quarantine or not. But it's funny. I've been trying to get this article written about Ian Scheid. So I've been so busy in my AHL editorial duties for the Sin Bin because, as you've noticed, we relaunched, rebranded our website.
See, that looks beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, man. Kudos to Matt Harding, Zach Corder, our tech guy, Matt Thomas, and our Sin Bin Rush correspondent who also takes care of a lot of our app stuff, Mike Crook. Boy, those guys, they put in a lot of time over the last few months and efforts to make this as smooth a transition as possible. And it looks phenomenal. It looks really clean.
Kudos to them. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It's so sleek. It looks so good. And so basically I've been, taking care of all the editing and scheduling duties for all the articles that are submitted, all the articles, AHL, ECHL, SPHL. And so, granted, there wasn't a whole lot of workload, but it definitely was enough to keep me from writing this piece about Ian Scheid. I did get an interview with his former head coach, Mike Hastings, at Minnesota State University, Mankato, and got to talk with him. And the first thing he said about Scheid, consistency. Just a super consistent guy, both on and off the ice. Exactly. That's what Coach Hastings says. It's like any coach will tell you, they want a player that how they operate all the time. Like, you don't want a guy that's up here one game and just way down here the next game and just, flip-flopping and stuff like that.
I'll tell you what, that's something Greg Cronin that he preaches all the time. Every time I talk to him, he's not afraid to bench a guy if they're not being consistent. He loves guys like that. Just, he knows what to expect every single practice, every single game. So it sounds like he'll get along just fine with him for sure.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And, the fact that he's kind of just hasn't stood pat. Like, if something was wrong, he would ask Coach Hastings, tell me exactly what's wrong. Coach Hastings shared a little, anecdote about, hey, I went up to him in the hallway and said, you need to play better. And Scheid said, I don't understand what you mean. You need to tell me exactly what you mean. What do you mean? And so, yeah, it was just, it was kind of refreshing to hear that about a wee guy like Ian Scheid. That's what something Coach Hastings said. And also that he was the quarterback for the power play over there for the Mavericks at Minnesota State. Nice. So you got another potential special teams guy. But yeah, I was going to say something else. Oh yeah. Last thing, talk about character and everything. Ian Scheid came on as a freshman. He walked on to Minnesota State.
Love those guys.
Just willing to prove himself, willing to put in the work. He was on scholarship the next year. So
I love that.
Yeah.
It just shows, I love those kind of stories like that. It shows the character, the hard work of these guys, and they want it. They want it more than their peers, and that's awesome to see. And that's something you want in your team, in your locker room, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm trying to see if I've got any other notes here. Yeah, that's pretty much it about Ian Scheid. I don't want to give out my whole article over the over the airwaves right now, but yeah, that's the 6 defensemen, 5 directly from the Colorado Eagles that have signed, that have been announced thus far, I should say. That's kind of important.
It's definitely picking up. The signings have picked up over the last few weeks here. So I'm sure there's be more on the horizon. We'll see. Stay tuned.
Yes, for sure. I mean, every team is different, and when they announce those, and the Eagles seem a little more measured, a little more paced out in regards to that. So, yeah. Well, looks like we're going to finish up here. We've talked about the Avs and how they're doing and the Eagles' recent signings. It's time to dig into the digital mailbag, as it were. And yeah, a little segment called Asking the Feed, where we take a gauge on social media and say, hey, you guys got any questions? And we got a couple again. So
Nice.
exactly two. Yeah.
Not talking to ourselves. That's awesome.
Right. Exactly. So first one, guy I mentioned earlier that is responsible for our app and everything here at the Sin Bin. His handle, he covers the Rapid City Rush up in Rapid City, South Dakota, at Sin Bin Rush. It is Mike Crook. He's got a question that says, plain and simple, pretty straightforward. How deep do you see the Avs going into the playoffs?
Man, I see them going all the way. If any of these first 3 games, if you count the exhibition game, if it counts for anything, I mean, this team looks great. If you go on social media, it's like a lot of verified accounts are kind of saying the same thing. They're like, I feel bad for the next team that has to draw the Avalanche in the first round of the elimination rounds, But this team's great. It's kind of like what I expected. They haven't played healthy. McKinnon said, when they first started training camp a couple weeks ago, he's like, we probably played 1 or 2 games like with a fully healthy roster. And they still, look what they did, They're only a couple points out of first place in the Western Conference. And now they kind of had that 4-month gap there to finally get healthy. Now you got the whole team ready to go, and it's showing. Like, the depth of this team is wild. You got, we already talked about the 2 great starting goaltenders that can step in and save a game anytime they want. You got great depth on the defensive end of things, on the back end. And I think, the sky's the limit. This team is dominant. And it starts with Nathan McKinnon. I think as long as he stays in your lineup, that dude will win a game by himself if he has to. But luckily he doesn't, because, again, that depth, we got 3 other lines that are just absolutely fantastic and will chip in as well. So sky's the limit for these guys. I think we will see them at least in the conference finals. I think that's a pretty safe bet for me. And who knows? Maybe we'll see them in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you, Scott. They are super good. They are just a really good team. Excuse me. They're a really good team. And my concern that I have is that could they probably peak too soon? I mean, if they're handling, obviously St. Louis defending Stanley Cup champion, winning in dramatic fashion, but I mean, with a Dallas Stars team that's nothing to shake a stick at, they're pretty darn good in and of themselves. But I mean, are you concerned about them peaking too soon? Because I am.
I don't think so, because that's one of those things we just talked about a little bit earlier, how consistency is kind of key. And I think this Avalanche team, for the most part, has been relatively consistent, for better or for worse. Sometimes they're winning a bunch in a row, sometimes they lose a bunch in a row. But I think now we're finally seeing a fully healthy roster. I think night in and night out, you're just seeing Coach Bednar rolling with all 4 of his lines, and we're seeing some special things happening. And yeah, I guess maybe they could peak early. We'll see. But I think I love their attitude, how they're kind of treating all these qualifying games like it's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, this is, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. That's kind of the attitude they've approached every game, and I appreciate that, because it makes them dangerous. They're not complacent at all, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see where things go. I think they're going to be at Edmonton for quite some time. We'll see them back in Denver in October. We'll see.
That'll be hopefully the game plan for Avs and Eagles fans alike, for sure. All right. Second and final question from Brian Pedigo or Pedigo. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it.
Me neither, but I like that guy.
Yeah. Brian is very active on the socials, and he's on Twitter at Brian Pedigo 2. He asked today, what future do you see? What do you guys? He's asking both of us. Here we go. Yeah, finish that drink. We're ready.
I'm ready. Let's go. Rounding third base.
What future do you guys see for Tyson Jost?
Oh, man. I got into a little bit of trouble tweeting during the Avs and Stars game last night. And I said something about how Nieto is absolutely a better option on the 4th line between Calvert and Belmar than Jost is. Like, we saw Jost slot in, kind of surprise everyone, and kind of get in that first game against St. Louis, and I thought he played pretty well for the most part, but Nieto it just works so much better. I think we saw that against Dallas. I got attacked on Twitter by a lot of people. I have lukewarm and tepid takes, as they say. about
Oh,
Joe, because Tyson Joe's fans have this weird, just like kind of cult following about them.
mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. You say anything bad about Tyson Jones, and it's like you're getting, burned to the stake or whatever. But his future, I think there's some serious question marks about where he's going with this team, and obviously he's a restricted free agent in this offseason, and I think maybe at best he gets some sort of qualifying offer from Joe Sakic and his team, and honestly, I kind of just see him as trade bait at this point. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be a key fixture in this lineup because again, the depth of this team is just insane, and unfortunately, he's kind of the odd man out, and I think he lost his job, but. It hurts to say because I know a lot of people they love this guy. He's a former 10th overall pick a few years back, but
Right.
it is what it is. It's a dog eat dog world in the NHL. And you got to be consistent. He's just kind of a guy that's not very consistent.
So, okay, you said that his contract expires after this offseason. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let me check that because I was curious about it, and then I totally forgot to jump on Cap Friendly and check that because Cap
I've been
Friendly
lying to
is our
people
friend.
a lot, but I'm pretty sure it's this year he'll be an RFA.
Yeah, because he signed an entry level contract, and this is his final year of it. So
Yeah.
okay, man, yeah, I mean, you mentioned his fan base, and I'll touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will tout his character and will tout his community involvement, which I think both are totally important in
Absolutely,
a player and in someone that is going to be a part of a professional sports organization. My concern is if the Avalanche do decide to pick him up for another year or two, which it sounds like you think that they will.
I think it's very likely for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Cheap contract though.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's getting more than 2 million, 1.5 to 2 million, somewhere in there.
Right. So you re-up him, you re-sign him, you consider him for trade bait, like you said, with general manager Joe Sakic. Somebody pointed this out on social media. Do you think it gets to the point where if they do sign him for a year or two, that he's one of the players that is left unprotected and could eventually get picked up by the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft?
Yeah, I've been playing around with a lot of those scenarios. It's coming up soon. I guess it's going to be, right now it's going to be June of next year, but that sounds like it might get moved back a little bit because of, what's going on right now in the world.
Sure.
But I think he's for sure a guy that I think Seattle would like. He's a young guy, and I think he's definitely going to be, in the scenarios I've run through my head, I think he's probably going to be one of the exposed forwards, and he's probably one of the better options of those exposed forwards. And I think he's an attractive option to a team like Seattle too. And I think it's good for both teams. He's a young guy, and I think he just definitely needs a change of scenery. I think he needs a shot somewhere else because, again, it doesn't really help too much when you're getting buried as the 13th forward or whatever, and you're not getting a lot of consistent time because he's a young guy. I don't even know, what is he, 21 maybe, like 22?
I think technically he only played, oh gosh, let me see here. He only played, he's in the third and final year of his entry level contract.
Yeah.
But
I think he left after his freshman year at North Dakota.
Right.
So I'm going to say, he's probably like 22, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Put him in that
22.
range.
Yeah.
So again, a young guy. Like you said, he's a character guy. I love his hard work. I appreciate his hard work. He wants to make this team, but it's just unfortunate the way things have shook up. And I think that's kind of what a lot of people were giving me flack about. They think I hate Tyson Jost or whatever, and he's like the hardest worker, and he's great in the community, like you said, but that only gets you so far. It's really at the end of the day about your on ice performance, and that's something he's been very inconsistent with. So I wish him the best of luck, but I just don't think his future's here in Denver, and maybe Seattle it could be an option for him down the road.
Right. Gosh, and even with you just talking about the forwards and everything that are currently on the Avalanche and just his kind of place behind there on the depth chart, I was reminded of last game against Dallas and how you had guys like a Don Skoy and a Nemesnikov, potting goals and just Nemesnikov's goal was off of a Nathan McKinnon rebound. Like you said, Nathan McKinnon, just the linchpin, one of the linchpins. I mean, there's a few in the Avs offense. Obviously, they've showed that when injuries reared their ugly head. But just the fact that those other forwards that were acquired, I'm going to throw Burakovsky in there too. Why not? But those other forwards that were acquired from other teams via trade or free agency, I mean, they've really stepped up and earned their place on the team. And Jost has kind of bumped down the depth chart because of that.
That's the thing. Maybe like it probably hurts for him. I'm sure like he's, hasn't been very vocal about it, but obviously he said he wants to play. Everyone wants to play. You don't go to the NHL with the intent of just sitting in the press box for your entire career.
Right.
But it's got to kind of hurt for a guy like him that you're seeing him picking up the Donskoys and the Nemesnikovs and the Burakovskis, and you're kind of just seeing these guys who are, Joe Sakic is reaching out and grabbing. And it's like, wow, that's maybe you don't feel very respected in the locker room, but it's like I said, dog eat dog world. It's unfortunate what's kind of happened to him because I think he's a great talent. I think he's an awesome guy, just doesn't fit here in Denver, and that's okay. That's what I told people on Twitter yesterday. Like, it is no need to attack people. Like, he's a great guy. I agree with that, but just not for this Avalanche team, unfortunately. I wish him best of luck down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And just better chemistry with Long Beach native Matt Nieto.
There you go. Yeah.
That's the trope that keeps getting going on Twitter. So
that.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is all she wrote. That's it for tonight. I feel like we went a little shorter than last time, but that's okay. I mean, 30 to 45 minutes. That's
time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So yeah, we've talked Avalanche, we've talked Eagles. Like I said last time, we're planning on doing this in the off season every other week because of just the pace of off-season signings. And of course I say that, and the Eagles will probably announce another player or two tomorrow. Yeah.
About it.
Yep. Yeah. So, but yeah, we'll come back in a couple weeks. We've decided on Fridays on the sinbin.net. Scott and I will be, that'll be our home every Friday morning. Fire us up, listen to us at lunch. Like I said, quick 30, 45 minutes. You're good to go. You're all caught up. So that's where we're at. And episode 2 coming to a close here. And yeah, we got the intro and the outro music to work this time. Yeah. And so I'm
better
stoked.
Week by week. We're doing this.
Yeah. We're getting better. We're hitting our stride. We've hit a few hiccups along the way, especially, even today, but
it's to be expected though. It's a learning experience.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. So, Scott, tell, see, now I say, we're hitting our stride, and then I get tongue-tied. I clam up.
It's all right.
Scott, tell the people where they can find your work if they are not familiar already, which I can't imagine why they wouldn't be, but just in case, tell the people where they can find your work and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me every day on Twitter at offscottfree. The first O is it's a 0, so 0FF Scott Free. And you can find my work at coloradohockeynow.com, working alongside the one and only Adrian Dater. And I write there almost every day, and I would love for you guys to comment on my stuff and give it a read. Let me know what you think, and let's have a discussion. Let's talk hockey. That's what I like to do. Yeah,
definitely go give Scott's stuff a read. He knows his stuff, and there's a reason why Adrian Dater himself recruited him to write for Colorado Hockey Now. So there you go. Go check out Scott's stuff and his lukewarm tepid takes on Twitter. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Speaking of lukewarm tepid takes, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter.
Nice segue.
There we go. Huzzah. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at SinBinEagles, as in the Colorado Eagles. And I am, of course, on the sinbin.net. Just type in CC Hawkley, and you will check out our nice, clean, sleek new website and all the great AHL, ECHL, and SPHL writers that we have covering the wide world of minor league hockey. So, well, that's going to be it for this episode.
Right.
For Scott MacDonald, I'm Chad. Well, CC. That's my first name, Chad, but I go by CC. See?
I didn't know that. Awesome. There we go.
So for Scott MacDonald, I'm CC Hawkley. And you guys have a wonderful day, good week, good couple weeks. And we'll see you in a couple Fridays.
We'll talk to you soon. Yeah.
Talk to you very soon.
You've been listening to the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. For the latest news on the Eagles, the American Hockey League, and the rest of minor league hockey, visit thesinbin.net or download the Sinbin app for Apple and Android devices.